Hello again and welcome to X-Ray Tech, giving you an inside look at PC hardware. In today's video we're taking a look at one of my favorite graphics cards of all time, the mighty AMD HD 7970. In mid-2016, I was putting together my wife's first rig and I spotted two Sapphire Dual X cards for $91 each. They turned out to be incredible value, running AAA titles for her with ease. For a little history, this chip, codenamed Tahiti, was launched in December of 2011 and is built on the 28nm manufacturing process. It shipped with a stock clock speed of 925 MHz with a memory clock of 1375 MHz. It featured 3GB of GDDR5 memory, at the time a large amount considering the standard was 2GB even for high-end hardware. Perhaps most famously, it held the title of most powerful single GPU on the market when it launched, smashing the GTX 580, and it held that title until it was narrowly beaten by the GTX 680 in March of 2012. This card holds a special place in my heart and it's been crying to jump into my test rig and go toe-to-toe with way more modern titles, and I can't wait to show it to you. My sample here from Sapphire achieved a good overclock, reaching a speed of 1100 MHz from its out-of-the-box configuration of 950, and a memory overclock of 1500 MHz up from a stock 1425. This in and of itself was a manufacturer's overclock beyond reference speeds, which makes the results even more impressive. The test rig used here is my workstation, sporting an AIO-cooled Xeon X5650, overclocked to 4.1 GHz, 24GB of G.Skills Sniper DDR3-1600 memory and triple channel, and an HX1050 PSU, all wrapped in a Corsair Graphite 600T. So, without any further ado, let's jump into the games. First in our lineup is Star Wars Battlefront 2 in Galactic Assault. This game was played with the settings at the high preset and further tuned by raising textures to ultra when turning screen space ambient occlusion off. SSAO is always the very first setting I reduce or turn off when I need my frames to go up just a bit more. All said, the game looked great, giving up little visual fidelity for the adjusted settings. The average frame rate was at 80 and the 1% lows dipped down to 58. Jumping into Starfighter Assault, we see that at the same settings we're now getting a higher return on frame rates. For the duration of the match, the average sat at 90 frames per second with 1% lows at a respectable 64. I mentioned this in my last video, but it's important to note that in Battlefront 2, the results are always skewed thanks to upward spikes in frame rate at the unit selection menu. This doesn't change that the HD 7970 destroyed this title. 2016's Doom takes the lead next, with OpenGL settings at the high preset. The frame rate average was 82, with dips down to the 1% low of 59. Some of the more observant among you will already note that my metrics on screen don't show OpenGL in the gameplay footage. This is thanks to Radeon ReLive not working with OpenGL, forcing me to record in Vulkan. The frame rates between these APIs was too close to mention, so I let things be. This was another great showing for the aging AMD flagship. Moving on, we waste no time getting into Rockstar's open world masterpiece, Grand Theft Auto V. This game is stunning, and we were able to crank things up to a mixture of high and very high settings to achieve an average of 68 FPS with 1% lows down at 55. These transitions were barely noticed, and gameplay was buttery smooth and fluid. Thanks to some handy metrics in GTA 5 settings, I was able to tell what was holding the HD 7970 back most in this title, the 3GB frame buffer. The results are excellent all the same. Our lineup continues with Middle-earth Shadow of War, the sequel to the critically acclaimed Shadow of Mordor launched back in 2014. This title's predecessor had an excellent in-game benchmark, and Shadow of War follows in its footsteps. These punishing scenes put our card through its paces, finally finding a chink in its armor. The high preset was too much for the HD 7970, forcing us to reduce settings to medium to achieve a respectable frame rate of 72. The Witcher 3 honestly had been sitting in my library unloved and unplayed until I saw its use in my benchmarking videos, and I absolutely regret that I ever let this game languish in such a way, because playing it for my videos has opened my eyes to it. Although the game was set to the medium preset, it looks excellent. Our old underdog graphics card still had something to give, returning an average frame rate of 67 with a 1% figure of 53. Now that we're nearing the end, bringing up the rear is PUBG, the popular Battle Royale title launched in December of 2017. It finally lost some popularity due to notoriously poor optimization, even on the best of hardware, until the last couple of months of updates. It seems things are getting better, and on the medium preset we achieved an average of 69 FPS. While the 1% low dipped to 35, I think it can be blamed on a dip on release from the plane. Either way, an overall smooth experience in the last title of this video. Our final clips are going to be of the best Unigine Heaven run I could get out of this old girl. If you want to know how well the HD7970 stacks up against your own graphics card, feel free to download Unigine Heaven, it's free, and replicate my settings shown here. It's important to note that the HD7970 is a power-hungry monster, so if you plan on getting one, make sure you have nothing less than a 600 watt, 80 plus rated power supply with two 8-pin or two 6 plus 2-pin connectors for power. Well, that wraps things up for our third video. Please feel free to like, dislike, comment, subscribe, or share. All questions will be replied to. All feedback is appreciated. This has been X-Ray Tech.